Greetings, my name is Asama Ornsri. I am currently studying business management in the Creative Industries at the Montfort University. My research is about precarious music industry, focusing on self-expression and self-exploitation during the crisis time. The reason why I'm doing it because I want to investigate more into the factors that create precariousness in music industry, also people's opinion towards it, and also its consequences and how we're going to resolve it. Because the findings shows me that self-expression is the big thing in the music industry, so I dig deeper down. So the process in brief is I came up with the phenomena, I did some interviews, and then here it comes the findings and analysis, and then now self-expression. So I dig deeper down, did some webinar, and now here we are in documentary. The section of the webinar was separated into 3 sections. First, the original idea. Second, the finding and analysis. Third one is self-expression and self-exploitation during the crisis times, like coronavirus. First, I coming up with the idea of the mental health in music industry. I did some research more in the precarious in music industry. No, precarious in creative industry first. And then I found out that there's I would say none, but just a few that talks about the music industry. But most of them talks about the creative industries as a whole. So that's why I really want to come up with this research. Because it's very important to me, and it could be important to someone that really want to know why that music industry is not really the industry that people want to get in, but once you get in, it's just fun, creative, just expressing, it just helps supporting community lots in a way. Yeah, it could benefit my college of music. It could benefit lots of people that I know. It could be benefit lots of people that I know. It could be something, or like in the future I found myself, like I found my name. In the future I might find my name in the like bibliography or referencing, or like Google Scholar, Academia, I don't know. In the creative industry we have advertising, marketing, architecture, craft, design, fashion design, film, TV, video, radio, photography, IT software, computer services, publishing, museums, galleries, libraries, music, performing arts and visual arts. And the music industry is growing compared to the figures that found on the internet and such. Talking about the precarious creative industries, we could found many literatures and many papers, academic papers, talks about the longer hours. So if you talk about the precarious creative industries, people would find that so many articles and academic papers, literatures, they usually talk about the longer hours of work, the unsociable hours of work. It is very hard work, but not lots of money coming through, so financial issues, and basically down to money. So I did the interviews, targeted people that are in the music industry and also not in the music industry. And we talked about the meaning of the word itself, the word precarious itself, because the word precarious we usually find on the academic papers. So just want to test how much that people know about the word precarious. For example, like what is the meaning of it and how can it apply to this context. So the main 5 meaning of the word precarious, people say is hard. Like if you say precarious music industry, so music industry is hard. So challenging, dangerous, unstable, insecure, uncertain, the new word iffy. So and lots of people said that the word itself, the precarious, it meant decline or end of the era. So it is quite a very strong word to use in this context, but it perfectly describes the music industry in a way, in my opinion. Then in the interviews, we talk to the interviewees, just the word itself, and then they all express the same expression that it could lead to something unexpected. So, and then we talk furthermore down into the factors of that create the precariousness in the music industry. Because the way that I did my interview, every interview structured as the semi-interview, so which means that all of the question for every participant are all different. It depends on what conversation leads to. So we talked a bit more about the factors that create the precariousness in the music industry. And the first thing that come through is the changes of the music industry as a whole. Because people create trends, because people's appreciations, because it's the value of the music itself, and because we have to work during the unsociable hours. So when people are resting, you are working. That means that you have to have like some level of flexibilities during your work life, which causes the work-life balance. Maybe if you have children at home, you have family at home, then it is not really certain to just have a night out or a day off with your family. And obviously it's getting low paid, because some of the job you need to go contract by contract and you need to put your hard work in, so sometimes that what you getting back is not what you wanted. So to be a freelancer is also create precariousness in the music industry.
Well, that was a really fascinating talk. I learned quite a bit from that. So I'm sort of interested to learn a bit from you now. So if we sort of have a little chat about what's next and what's sort of up and coming, ask a couple questions if you're down for that.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you finished all of your interviews, what happens next?
Well, I think I have to say first, I separated the interview into 2 sections, which are the interview before the crisis and after the crisis, because apparently, like when I started to do my research, the coronavirus exists now. It's happening there, but not really like playing a big part yet. And then when I finished doing my first interview, and now the coronavirus come and just like kind of somehow ruined something, so I need to go back and interview them again. And yeah, and once I got 2 batches of the interview, then I started to do my coding, and I started trying to see what topic and trying to see what topic that people said the most, and trying to analyze and coming up with the theme and sub-theme so that I know what's going on, what's happening there.
Sounds very organised.
Yeah.
And yeah, coronavirus disrupted a lot of things, so good on you for responding. And what sort of things did you find from all this codified information?
It's very interesting, like how I did the interview. Like every interview, it's the new. I usually find new things in every interviews that I conducted. Like, but they have a common things too. Like most of my interview that I did, they sort of have the background that they touch base in the music industry somehow. For example, like the family support. Like one of my participants said that she usually singing with the family just for fun. So that also interested in music. And also education support. They have music subject in their curriculum. They have like a talent shows, so that people could just be like, oh, performing music, oh yeah, we have fun. And then people could say like, oh yeah, we just get together and we do something good for good, and together as a group, hang out, leisure, fun, entertainment. And somehow like one person said very interesting stuff like, oh, you know what, this is my hobby and I like what to do, I like what I do, and that also, yeah, self-expressive somehow. But it is very not really smooth as it seems. People could struggling with like people's perspective. For example, like when you have a parents or people around you that said like, just go grab something very useful, but not playing music. Music just a hobby. It's not really the real thing. That struck me, because like that also what I personally experienced it before my parents accepted, of course. And then the background of the music industry is like, it's a skills that you need to develop in times. People could have talented, people could not. Maybe people don't really have that talent, but they practice it. It's very competitive in a way. Sure. And the knowledge of the music industry, people need to know more about the industry first before getting into that. Because like if you're not knowing what you get into, you could be, ruined.
No, that's true. Well, that's sort of a fascinating sort of outcome that you've got. But obviously you mentioned that you were doing interviews before the sort of coronavirus lockdowns.
Yeah.
And so you did some afterwards, and you did a webinar as well. Before the coronavirus happened, what would you say were the kind of the findings before all this lockdown event occurred?
My original topic was the precarious music industry. So the interview that before the crisis talks about how, like, what factors that created precarious in the music industry, and how it's precarious and what affected them, and like how that precarious music industry make them feel towards it. So what I found are the factors that created like the uncertainties, the insecurity, the like exploitation of the free labor, or freelancing, unexpected event that happens all the time. The job security is none, and trends keep changing all the time. We get low pay, but we did so much work, and it just affected life work-life balance, but people are willing to, be in the industry. It's how it's just like, even though this much disruptive, but we're here because we just love what we do. We enjoyed it.
The kind of fulfillment of
Yeah.
the work is the payment.
Well, we were just like, it was some kind of that one thing could be like make them forget how precarious the industry is, which is that what I found in a pre-crisis.
Sure. And so that was the pre-crisis.
Yeah.
So going into the post-crisis, when you did the interviews there.
Yeah, that was very interesting how coronavirus pandemic affected everyone in every industries. Like now, even me affected on it because original idea and we need to change it, 3 times. But obviously everything is closed. Obviously, like, people need to stay at home. People need to stay safe and clean. Wash your hands. Happy birthday. But some of the people that I interviewed, they said that coronavirus opened the opportunities for them to their businesses and to their music career. Like, for example, people that value music, they tend to seek the way to just listen to more and more music, more gigs. So they search online and then they found them. So in this case, they see the coronavirus as the opportunity instead of the disaster. It was the disaster. It was the disaster, of course. It was like the sales drops, people staying at home, not going to the venue anymore. People cannot go into the live music anymore. People like lots of musicians cannot actually like go out and meet fans. So human contact is lost. But then the coronavirus the pandemic just give that sense of how they can value themselves more and be on that online platform and reach out to the customer. And then I asked them, like, why are you doing this? And how does it make you feel? And they said, like, well, it's another way to enjoy ourselves. And because everything shut down, they have to stay at home. So they have to gather all the resources that they can to just make that one thing happen. All those hard work and effort put it in, and they just to create one thing that makes people happy. Also, one thing that they enjoy. One thing that they think that, well, we experienced the same thing, so why don't we just, having fun together? And just like I said before, like the background, the peak crisis, people enjoy what they do, and people just forget the precariousness of the music industry. It's just gone.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's a great new set of insights. So when you did the webinar, which obviously I was there for,
yeah, of course.
So what would you say that it was about, and what the sort of the take home from it was? So what you learned during the course of the webinar? The purpose of the webinar originally was the event, so that people could just come into like the just normal event and me presenting stuff. But now, because of coronavirus, we cannot use the room and people cannot do the gathering. So webinar, the purpose of it is just like the place that I confirm my research is real, and to gather more information about the self-expression and self-exploitation, because somehow the arguments keep
weighing like, so self-exploitation is a good thing or the bad thing, or how good and how bad, and what is good and what is bad about self-expression. And the self-exploitation, like, do people aware of the self-exploitation during this course of the crisis? So yeah, that's about it. But to conclude all the webinar though, people on the webinar, they said, like literally said that self-expression is a good thing right now during the course of crisis, because like people need that positive energy to lift their day up, to, you know, have like the sense of hope that they're gonna have a good day. And during the crisis, like, even though they have, I forgot to mention the big part that people are facing in every industry is the financial issues. So it's just like the way out for people to seek for the happiness, for the enjoyment. So yeah, self-expression is a good thing right now, but it could be bad if you express yourself too much. You could see the vulnerable side of yours, or maybe like your work is not really, people might not understand your work if you too much express yourself through the work, but then like out of the trend. So you need to know the barrier of like, you need to know that line, if you're gonna cross it or you cannot cross it. And are people aware of the self-exploitation during crisis time? Yes, people do aware of, like, because they need to gather resources within themselves, right, to create the work, to making music, to play the song. Even though like they play in a group, even though they're doing the live session jams online, they need to know what they're capable of. For example, they don't have drums, they don't have electric drums, but they use, how about pot and pans? They use that, and that also self-exploitation. That also like using the all resources that you have right now to go extra mile. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Which in conclusion, like, self-exploitation, self-expression during crisis time is, new world.
Yeah. So that's a good way to summarize like all the findings
Yeah,
that you've
right.
got, so far. So it's important to stay active and just keep putting stuff out there. So it seems brilliant. Oh, this has been fascinating.
Right.
So yeah.
What is next for the music industry is still unclear, because it's coronavirus is still going, the lockdown is taking place, and people stay inside and stay safe. We cannot go out and enjoy the live music like we used to be. So right now what we have to do is stay safe and help the community out, and I'm sure that we shall pass together.